next presenter is Leo Cantwell, and he is addressing the question, how will artificial intelligence affect the future workforce? Please join me in welcome to the podium, Leo Cantwell.
Picture this, a workplace where machines make decisions in milliseconds, operate 24/7 without breaks, and outperform humans in speed, cost, and safety. Artificial intelligence is no longer the future. It's here and is transforming jobs across every industry. Today we'll explore the advantages of AI, the industries most at risk, and what this means for the future of human employment. The term AI refers to, quote, a collection of interrelated technologies used to solve problems that would otherwise require human cognition. AI has come about through the development of computer systems capable of performing tasks which prior to this time in human history required human intelligence to complete. The focus of this presentation is to prove that AI will have significant impacts on the workforces in the United States and throughout the world. We as humans should be concerned by these facts. AI is faster, cheaper, safer, and more efficient than human beings. The topic of artificial intelligence is controversial, and this is partly because the impact on the world is still unknown. Debate remains as to whether AI will achieve human equivalent intelligence. There has been fearful debate surrounding the rapid growth of AI and what this means for the future. This is influenced by advancing technologies and debates about the future of work. The godfather of AI, Geoffrey Hinton, warns us about the potential dangers of AI, saying it, quote, could wipe out humanity within the next 30 years, end quote. In a recent interview, he revised his earlier prediction, now estimating a 10% to 20% chance that AI could lead to human extinction within the next 30 years. Geoffrey Hinton announced his resignation from Google in a statement to the New York Times, saying he now regretted his work. In a 60 Minutes interview, he said, quote, I think we're moving into a period where, for the first time ever, we may have things more intelligent than us, end quote. The development of AI began decades ago, but has advanced more since the early 2000s with the advancement of machine learning. Many questions surround the further development of this technology. Why continue to develop such technology? What are its impacts on different industries? Can humans control AI? Are there limits to the advancement of AI? These are some common questions people ask as AI arises. All technology should be to the advantage and advancement of humans. However, there is much concern as machines may have not advanced beyond man. Some concerns lie in the fact that AI's computations are often a black box, unknowable to AI designers and other users. With increases in the use of AI in the workforce, several sectors have been affected more than others. One report said that most workers in certain economies could be exposed to AI and predicted that displacement of workers was likely. A recent survey by Thesis reveals that by 2028, many workers expect AI to change their jobs but not replace them entirely. As of now, it is thought that AI will alter job roles and take a significant number of jobs away from humans. Like all new inventions, it is still undeveloped, and it is likely that human job replacement will continue to grow to greater levels. When it comes to competition between humans and AI, there are concerns for the human workforce such as speed, cost, safety, and efficiency of AI compared to humans. When it comes to speed, AI has a major advantage over humans. The reason is simple. AI operates at the speed of light. New developments of AI harness the use of light waves rather than electricity. The new technology has the power to rapidly accelerate the processing speed of computers. AI has an expected annual growth rate of 36.6% between 2023 and 2030. This is another example of the rapid developing nature of AI and the need of human awareness of what we're facing in the near future. AI and robots have for some time been replacing humans in repetitive task jobs in manufacturing. Complex calculations and mathematical computations that would take humans hours or even days are completed by AI in fractions of a second. In relation to decision making, AI algorithms can make decisions and predictions in milliseconds, from stock trading to autonomous driving. In the world of healthcare, AI speed is saving lives. Medical imaging, as well as many other forms of diagnosis, benefit greatly from AI's rapid analysis. In cases of emergencies, AI can process MRI or CT scans, aiding doctors in making quick, accurate diagnoses. AI is now used for diagnostics, predicting patient outcomes and assisting healthcare professionals. As a result, human jobs are being reduced to some degree in the healthcare sector. AI is also starting to be used in the banking and financial sectors. AI is used for fraud detection, algorithmic training, and risk management. AI algorithms are used for high-frequency trading, where split-second decisions can make or break fortunes. The speed advantage of AI gives it an edge in spotting market trends and executing trades faster than any human can. Santosh and Pavitra studied AI in the banking and financial sectors and discovered positive outcomes, including increased productivity, better decision-making, and consumer satisfaction. However, the report also found job losses. They reported a need for organizations to understand AI's continuous evolution and recommended that companies plan to adapt to it in order to ensure competitiveness. As well as improvements in accuracy and speed, AI solutions are increasingly more cost-effective than human labor. ChatGPT, along with a code interpreter to conduct statistical analysis, is available for a subscription of approximately $20 per month. A biostatistician could easily cost over $6,000 per month in salary and benefits. Once these systems are built, they can be replicated almost infinitely for a fraction of the cost. This also eliminates the need for salaries, healthcare, vacation, or retirement benefits. The system works around the clock without complaint. This gives AI solutions an almost unbeatable cost advantage for the foreseeable future. Many sectors are likely to need to make changes as competition increases and cost margins are required to be lowered. AI is highly cost-effective and accurate for repetitive functions. It is more common nowadays to encounter an AI-powered chatbot or virtual assistant when seeking customer service. This technology has already replaced and reduced workers. According to Customer.com, 50% of consumers believe that AI has improved customer service, and 59% are optimistic that it will continue to do so in the future. It is cost-effective for companies to use AI for these types of tasks. It is also true that AI develops and becomes more sophisticated. This table shows the cost comparisons for AI compared with human labor. As competition grows, cost saving is key, and it is inevitable that AI is likely to be used in the workforce just on the basis that it is much cheaper. AI entered the healthcare industry and has had many transformative effects, as earlier discussed. Cost saving has been one of the most beneficial, and it was predicted by the McKinsey report on healthcare that cost reductions would be significant, stating that AI can save up to $360 billion annually. This brought the possibility of AI technologies being implemented on a bigger scale, and this will continue to grow and replace jobs in the healthcare sector. Another significant advantage of AI is its safety and efficiency. The efficiency and safety of AI is proving superior to sometimes inefficient and accident-prone humans. This is seen frequently in the transportation industry. Vehicles and drones powered by AI are changing transportation. Autonomous vehicles are becoming more prevalent and have impressive track records in relation to safety. Google's Waymo driverless taxi service recently announced it had achieved an accident rate of just 0.59 per million miles. This compares with the national average accident rate involving human drivers of 2.98 per million miles. In addition, there were no fatalities in the driverless system. With this impressive record, the use of AI in transportation is likely to increase rapidly as technology progresses, thus reducing human jobs in transportation. Even the most diligent workers get tired and need a break. Tiredness can become a safety issue and lead to loss of efficiency. Machines have no such limitations and can work continuously without the need to stop. The employment of machines remove these risks and concerns for employers, and there are many advantages, especially when tasks are repetitive and boring for humans. For industries dependent on the completion of dangerous and strenuous manual work, robots can offer tremendous productivity gains. Many disagree that AI will have an impact on employment and indicate that there is little evidence that AI will cause any kind of decline in employment. One study, which included 10 countries, formed a conclusion that most of the sectors that use AI to replace worker tasks use it to replace a small number of tasks, and it does not impact human jobs significantly. The argument is countered by the evidence already presented, which demonstrates the speed, efficiency, and safety of AI, not to mention the cost savings. AI is still in the developing stages and is continuously changing and presenting new advances to all sectors. As more and more industries employ newer technologies, it is inevitable that others will follow. Eventually, industries will not have a choice, but will be required to keep up with the changing technological advancements, thus impacting human jobs. In addition to the increased use of AI, it is likely that AI will transform the nature of many jobs. Some may say that companies should use AI to support workers, not replace them. The idea is that by letting AI handle boring tasks, employees could move into more interesting and creative roles. This could make work better and help people adjust to the changes of AI. In doing so, there will potentially be a merging of AI to enhance human roles. The replaced tasks may also reshape the organization of remaining work. In this way, AI can be beneficial. While the concept of AI improving rather than replacing jobs sounds good, the reality is more complicated. Businesses ultimately follow the most cost-effective path, and history shows that when technology can perform tasks cheaper and faster, human roles often get cut out. For example, since 1980, the U.S. has lost 88% of its factory jobs due to automation, while production doubled. Machines replaced workers, but fewer humans were needed to make goods. What makes AI different is both its speed of advancement and its ability to handle cognitive work, not just manual labor. Yes, new jobs will emerge, but there's no guarantee they'll appear quickly enough. In conclusion, there are many things to consider. The idea lies in merging AI with human tasks, and in doing so, enhancing the workforce to a level where there is harmony and satisfaction. Perhaps that looks realistic now with limited development, but the technology will become much more sophisticated rapidly, and this idea becomes more unlikely. In a recent interview, Microsoft founder Bill Gates stated that the advancement pace of AI will mean that over the next decade, human jobs will largely be replaced by AI, stating that currently there is little expertise in AI, but once this develops, there will be a much faster rate of job replacement for humans. Thank you. I now stand for questions.
Mrs. Burke.
Thank you. That was a really, really great talk. So like COVID, the lack of human contact, the lack of looking into people's eyes, to talking with people, like a lot of teens were stuck in their rooms. Do you think that AI will have the same effect with the lack of human contact?
Thank you for your question. I do think that's very possible, especially with even AI now. People are using it constantly, like chatbots or anything to create images, and it's undeveloped as of now, and it's going to continue to develop more, so it's very possible that it'll be like a pandemic where people are not talking to each other as much and things like that. Thank you for your question.
Really well done, Leo. I was impressed by your research there. It's very interesting. Maybe you're aware of some of the challenges with animal cloning and like the risk of having one disease wipe out a whole, herd of livestock. Is there a similar risk if there are lots of jobs being some kind of virus or hack happens and would put the company at grave risk if they've put too much of their workforce into AI. And if that's so, would it then be like a prudent thing for a company to have a proper balance and kind of have some AI and some human, so as a safeguard against that? Does that make sense?
Could you repeat like the first part about animal?
Yeah. So I mean, it's just kind of an analogy there, right? Like, you know, if you can imagine if you had all cloned cattle, they're all genetically the same, so they're susceptible to the same genetic diseases. If some disease came in, it could, in theory, wipe out, you know, a huge number, maybe all of them, right? And then, like, if you're the owner, your whole livestock is gone, it's dead in one.
Okay, so like the workers.
Yeah, right. So if you have a bunch of AI, if it's all, you know, a huge percentage of your workforce is, you know, put onto AI. But what if there was some kind of computer virus? What if it was hacked into? What if there was some kind? And if it's all tied in the same way, and it all shuts down, would that be, you know, a reason not to have AI in the workforce?
Thank you for your question. That is definitely a possibility for that to happen, but I think once companies switch to AI, other companies will follow, even when that malfunction will happen, but I think that AI will already have replaced the humans in those jobs. And I think in a lot of times they choose profit over people, and but for example, if that does happen, I think there's a chance that they could switch back to human workers and not just AI chatbots or AI computers.
Great presentation, Leo. Don't you think it would be a bad idea for AI to take over more jobs, because then the unemployed people would like lose their money and they'd be increase in poverty rates?
Thank you for your question. I personally think that I'm not in support of AI taking over jobs. I just think that it's a high possibility with how AI now is underdeveloped, and that the future of AI is still unknown, and that it's going to develop even more. Because unlike manual labor in the past, or unlike technologies in the past where you can only do manual labor, AI is they're able to do cognitive tasks as well, such as thinking, deciding, learning, and that's just a danger for human jobs in the future. But I'm not in support of it. Thank you for your question.
Hi, so first of all, I'd like to say great presentation, and I'm going to repeat these questions after I say something else too. But first of all, I wanted to say, how do you think wealth distribution is going to work? Because it's inevitable, like AI is going to take all these jobs. And second of all, like just like you said with the manufacturing, being taken by like all this automation, all the manufacturing jobs being taken by automation, do you think new jobs will be created? I also just wanted to say on top of that, that I'm very impressed by your presentation, and I started my own AI automation agency, and it's not a shot in the dark. I don't know if you ever heard of the AAA model, but like it's not a shot in the dark. I've already signed like a deal with like a digital marketing company, so the opportunity is open for you if you want to take me up on that. But I'll repeat the question just so you know. Like, how do you think wealth distribution is going to work? Because AI is inevitably going to take jobs that I'm already taking these jobs, like, for like a fraction of the cost. And then also, like, do you think new jobs will be created?
Thank you for your question, and thank you for that proposal. I'm not exactly sure how wealth distribution will go, because I think a lot of the jobs will be lost, and I think the head of the company, if a company chooses to go all AI as far as all humans, I think that they will get most of the pay, and that will just lead to more employment, which will also, like in past times where technology took over human jobs, it also created more jobs, but there's no guarantee that it will happen quickly enough, since AI is just rapidly developing, and it's just developing faster and faster each year, each day. Thank you for your question.
One last question. Do you think there's a possibility that if AI is taking over like the menial tasks and what we think of as work, that it could be the beginning of a new renaissance for humanity and give us time to focus more on the arts and the good, the beautiful?
Thank you for your question. I definitely think that that could definitely happen. You're asking if it could produce more like art jobs, for example, or just it'll help us focus more on art and beautiful. Yeah, I definitely think that is an opportunity. That definitely is a possibility. Sorry, I'm blanking out. I don't think AI will take over any jobs that could involve art, because art is just something that humans do, and it needs emotion and actual human. I don't know how to say it, but it needs emotion. AI just spits out facts, and it's not really nothing like humans. So I don't think AI could take over any kind of art businesses or anything like that. So I definitely think it could help us focus more on the beautiful things like art and things like that. Thank you for your question.
Great job, Neil. All right, our next presenter this evening will address the question, what constitutes good Catholic feminism and can it be saved? Please join me in welcoming to the podium Izzy Meyer.
Are you brave enough to stand up for Catholic feminists in this world? Or are you going to cave into the secular feminist ideals? Authentic feminism needs to be viewed through a Catholic lens because that is how God created men and women to be. Unfortunately, secularist society has become a strong voice of influence that is overcoming not only authentic feminism, but even God himself. Women's special gifts of humility, compassion, and maternity combine to achieve awe in God's life-giving feminine gift. In my thesis, I will point out how feminism in the United States has drastically changed from a God-oriented view of celebrating God's gift to women to a negative view of feminism. This new view is seen through a lens of distorted freedom. In my essay, I will prove how the new feminism has torn down women and led them toward a path of death instead of lifting them up. First, it is important to examine the history of feminism. Author Abigail Favale breaks down feminism into 5 waves. The first wave centered on women's inability to vote, own property, attend most colleges, and especially not being able to have custody over their own children. It was also very active in the temperance movement, which sought to ban alcohol and reduce the domestic abuse attached to it. As Favale points out, quote, "First wave feminists, for the most part, were not radicals or revolutionaries. Most were middle-class wives and mothers, committed Christians who opposed abortions," unquote. Ironically, this group would be shocked by the many views of feminism in our current time and would certainly not agree with today's definitions. During the second wave, World War II broke out and shifted the woman's place outside the home. In 1963, Betty Friedan's radical book, The Feminine Mystique, emphasized woman's deep and listless unhappiness when defined to domestic roles. Reproductive freedom was celebrated as access to birth control and abortion. During the sex wars of the 1980s, women were split either standing against pornography and prostitution or being sex positive. In the 1990s, a third wave broke out. Uninhibited sexual freedom was pushed, and the word consent became the only necessity in judging if even prostitution, pornography, or even sadomasochism was considered good. This wave centered on individual choice and freedom. Around 2012, the fourth wave saw feminism morphing and rejecting the idea that a woman, by definition, is a biological female. It was extreme and involved many philosophies which took on chameleon definitions. The anger and rebellion against the Christian feminist model was first influenced early in 1949 by French philosopher Simone de Beauvoir when she wrote her famous book, The Second Sex. She emphasized how woman is figured as an object, slave, or other to man. She also initiated gender theory by saying, quote, "One is not born, but rather becomes a woman," unquote. Beauvoir believed that there was no God and that there was no soul or divine spark trapped in a body. Instead, she posited, quote, "An infinite consciousness constrained by my biological and material circumstances," unquote. This new type of freedom for women unfortunately became a freedom from femaleness. Author Favale sums up this horrible conclusion, quote, "Women are not valued simply for being. They must prove their value by doing." The fifth wave embraced an even darker pathway. In Judith Butler's book, Gender Trouble, she rejects both the word woman and female, and substitutes the word gender. In her next book, Undoing Gender, she adopts the radical position and postmodern philosophy of Michael Foucault, who declares that truth is unknowable or non-existent, but instead declares power as the new term. Butler proposes that the maternal body can be replaced with, quote, "technological innovations that enable artificial reproduction, fully decoupling human reproduction from heterosexual relationships," unquote. Leaving behind the confusing world which lacks a clear definition for woman, feminine, and even gender, we now turn toward God and his guardian, the Catholic Church, for the refreshing and joy-filled definitions. Just look to the great women saints for models of true Catholic feminism, and most importantly, Mary. Through her fiat, Mary submitted to God's commands and serves as a constant reminder for women to continue to say yes to God and to ignore the lies of the world. Therefore, let us examine just 3 of Mary's virtues. Naturally, Mary's gift of maternity is the penultimate support of feminism. Embedded in this first blessing are the virtues of empathy and humility, which will round out our position on the goodness of femininity. The first feminine gift bestowed upon every woman is maternity. Let us turn to the famous writings of my confirmation saint, Edith Stein, on femininity. In her essays on woman, she illustrates, quote, "Women naturally seek to embrace that which is living, personal, and whole. To cherish, guard, protect, nourish, and advance growth is her natural maternal yearning," unquote. Pope St. John Paul II constantly cited the feminine genius and referred to Edith Stein's outstanding writings, such as, quote, "A woman's soul is fashioned to be a shelter in which other souls may unfold," unquote. Edith Stein points to the incredible gift of selfless, motherly love that always elevates the other in first place. As Catholic writer Krista Keel reinforces that women's capacity is not solely a reference to giving birth. Rather, it means to live in a way so as to promote abundance and growth in the lives of others. Stein especially accentuates that every woman is called to motherhood and to be a spouse, not just those who marry and bear children. Stein also declared that motherhood required first a strong relationship with Jesus Christ through the sacrament of love, the Eucharist. Catholic writer Lorraine Murray reinforces Stein's important point when she says, "Only in a daily confidential relationship with the Lord in the tabernacle can one forget self and have a heart open to all the needs and wants of others." Author Emily Stipson Chapman rounds out the key point of motherhood, that it provides others with everlasting life. In analyzing John Paul II's writings about the goodness of the feminine gift, she promotes, quote, "And as mothers, our job is to see every person we meet as the image of God, to nourish and nurture life all around us, to encourage, affirm, heal, teach, welcome, and pay attention to every person God sends our way. We are to love tenaciously, sacrifice joyfully, and advocate persistently for the little and the least," unquote. The second critical, authentic feminist quality is empathy. We again turn to Edith Stein as she touts the female qualities of receptivity, generosity, and dignity. Krista Keel highlights these qualities as being innate to women, deeply embedded in our hearts. She argues that women are always keen and sensitive at finding ways to love, which is an incredible testament to the irreplaceable value of women in everyday life. Another Catholic writer, Mary Ellen Stanford, stresses a very powerful point. Quote, Stein invites women to channel their incredible powers of empathy, to suffer with those she loves, unquote. Stanford also points to Mary as the ultimate model for empathy, especially when she is at the foot of the cross of her son Jesus. Stanford confirms that the problems of our world today can only be borne with the tremendous strength exemplified by the heart of a mother. My third point focuses on humility. Again, we turn to Mother Mary, who told St. Faustina the three most important virtues. Quote, I desire, my dearly beloved daughter, that you practice the three virtues that are dearest to me and most pleasing to God. The first is humility, humility, and once again, humility. The second virtue, purity. The third virtue, love of God. Unquote. Secular feminists are often offended because they define humility as a weakness, which equates to women being less intelligent, less talented, less reliable. Humility becomes angrily rejected from their vocabulary. Instead, Alice von Hildebrand reminds women to seek trust in the power of Jesus. She denounces the secular world's attraction to money, fame, and entertainment. She reminds women that they will not be judged according to their performance in the secular world, but according to their humility and charity. True performance equates to putting others first and not ourselves. Secular feminists see the traditional role of women serving as a denigration to women. They are blinded to the great benefits of being humble. They disregard our Lord's own words when he said, I have come not to be served, but to serve. An objection against using and retaining the word feminism comes from a prominent Catholic theologian, Dr. Carrie Grass. Even though Pope St. John Paul II called for a new feminism in 1995, Grass insists that the term feminism must be abandoned. She strongly contends that the current term feminism, which embraces deadly issues like abortion, transgenderism, and even Satanism, cannot be overturned for two reasons. One, it is too strongly embedded in the media, education, and throughout the world. And two, it has been utilized for too long a time, therefore cannot be overturned. She emphasizes that it has been tried now for nearly 30 years, but the heavy weight of feminist ideology has smothered Catholic efforts. In rebuttal, I offer the counter-arguments of a well-known Catholic woman theologian, Dr. Judy Landrum Klein, who wrote, Can John Paul II and Catholic Women Save Authentic Feminism? Her conclusion, a resounding yes. She reiterates that John Paul II declared that the educational effect that stems from the femininity and motherhood, the genius of women, is what makes a living, ongoing difference in the world. Klein accentuates that motherhood is a gift, stamped by God into every woman's heart, mind, and body because she is a woman. She calls all women to totally embrace their feminine nature by declaring, quote, It is the reality that women are inherently relational because their bodies are created to carry and bear another human being. And it is precisely these feminine gifts of love and relationality that will force systems to be redesigned in a way which favors the process of humanization, which marks the civilization of love. This is the new feminism in living color, unquote. Klein rejoices in the last 30 years for the many positive wins. She concludes that many faith-filled Catholic women have demonstrated how women can play an active, life-giving role in restoring our culture, and that by being both faithful to being women and faithful to Christ, they can and will bring forth not only the new feminism, but the new evangelization of the church and of the world. In conclusion, the term authentic feminism must be retained because it is a gift by God. In particular, the gift of maternity is embedded in womanhood by God. Also, the virtues of both empathy and humility are granted to enhance motherhood. As von Hildebrand powerfully reminds us, quote, When the time has come, nothing which is man-made will subsist. One day, all human accomplishments will be reduced to a pile of ashes. But every single child to whom a woman has given birth will live forever. For he has been given an immortal soul, made to God's image and likeness, unquote. So, can the word feminine shine again in God's glory? Yes, it is true that the secular world's brush paints with a dark swath over its canvas, and each decade tries to darken it even more with continual lies and hatred masquerading as freedom. Yes, it is true that some men will continue to become so morally bankrupt that they use their power to prey upon women. Most importantly, yes, it is true that God never fails to persevere in truth, goodness, and beauty. God has always called and will continue to call for the beauty of women to shine forth the truth about their feminine gifts. In particular, he touched them with the special gift of motherhood, both spiritual and physical, so that they would pour themselves out through him in creating eternal souls. So yes, we must continue to uphold authentic femininity that God has given us. It will impact not just us, but the whole world. Thank you. I now stand for questions.
Mr. Bird.
Me again. I love your passion. Fantastic. Wonderful, wonderful. So I wanted to ask you a question, though. I'll back up a little history. In 1917, the Blessed Virgin Mary appeared in Fatima, and she said that she warned that Russia and its errors would take over the world, basically, or would infect the world, I should say. And Sister Lucia said also that the last battle would be against the family. The last assault of the devil would be against the family. And there's a woman who testified in the 1960s in front of Congress and basically stated that she had personally placed 3,000 priests within the Catholic Church, that she was part of the communist infiltration in the United States, and that the communists had taken over different school systems, etc. And one of their goals was, of course, to destroy the family. I've noticed personally that when I was dating, for example, that many of the girls that I dated, I didn't mesh with. And one of the reasons is that they didn't want to have a family. First of all, they'd say, well, I'd have a kid for you, for example, or I want to have my career. So, and I discovered that this had infected women so tremendously in this country. I mean, every Disney movie is about some girl, some little girl that is, she's strong, and great, hey? But here's the question that comes here. This may offend some people here. And the reason that it's offensive, I believe, is because this has really infected so many women, is will you or do you recommend that women who have children stay home with the family? They don't go out and work. They stay home and raise the kids.
Thank you for your question, Mr. Bird. I think, honestly, that it depends. I don't think there's like a certain cut answer for every person. I think for some families, it does work out where they might have, the father has a high income, they're able to support the family, and the mother can stay home with the kids. And I think that's an incredible gift, and I think that should be normalized a lot more. I think that really connects the family. But I don't think there's anything against obviously having working parents as well, as long as they are still active in their child's life, especially spiritually, and make sure they're formed well. I think either can be a proper situation. Thank you.
Great answer.
I have a question for you, Lee. So, Pope St. John Paul II was kind of a master of meeting modern man where he was and trying to elevate it into Christ. So, any form of humanism, he wanted to propose Christ as the fulfillment of that humanism. So that's kind of where he's coming from. Okay, you're talking feminism. Let's get a new feminism that's defined through Christ. So we'll give the Pope yes. If you were to start over and that word wasn't there, and you had to find a word that was going to describe kind of a movement of exalting the dignity of the human person and woman, would you choose the word feminism?
Thank you for your question, Dr. Graham. Wow, that is a question I did not think about. So just to clarify, you're saying, would I still use the term feminism, or do I think there's a better word?
Yeah, if you could start from scratch and nobody's got a word, what word would you use? Would you use feminism?
I think the term feminism is acceptable, especially because you still have the word female in there, so it's like not how people are trying to divide things into gender. It's like there's just male and female. Maybe, I don't even know if I would say it as a term, but maybe a phrase, just reclaiming authentic womanhood. Thank you.
You did a great job, Izzy, and you silenced the
All right, our final senior thesis presentation for the class of 2025 will address the question, should Schoenberg's atonal compositions be considered music? Please join me in welcoming to the podium, Vivian Lizaraga.
Music is a form of art that we are deeply familiar with. Whether it's heard in the finest opera hall in all of Europe or through earbuds on the New York subway, music has the unique ability to brighten our mood, to get us through a hard time, or to bring us back to the past. Sometimes we can even find it obnoxious. I'd like to play for you a piece, and I'd like everyone to take a mental note. Is the piece that I'm about to play music? That was part of a piece by Arnold Schoenberg, a 20th century composer. Believe it or not, that piece stood at the edge of a revolution in musical history. It's an example of one of the first pieces for the time that was not composed in a key signature, or was atonal. For his time, this shift to atonality was unheard of. For some of his audience, it was a disgrace to music, while for others, it was an exciting step towards the future. To understand this change to atonality, we must first understand what tonality is. So tonality is, quote, the principle of organizing musical compositions around a central note, the tonic, end quote. It's a system that uses notes of the major and minor scales, within which there's a specific hierarchy of notes. For example, in C major, the C note is the tonic or home note, and the C, E, G chord is the tonic chord. The piece goes on, and notes are played in consonance or in dissonance with the main chord to create tension, but the piece always resolves back to the tonic chord, creating a satisfying resolution for the listener. But by the end of the 19th century, composers like Wagner were beginning to move away from tonality in favor of a more expressive and less structured approach. With this weakening of tonality, Arnold Schoenberg, the composer we'll be exploring today, began to seek a radically new structure for musical composition. Arnold Schoenberg was born in Austria in 1874. By the age of 9, he had already begun composing music, and even after some notable success with tonality, he still believed that it was, quote, stretched and disordered too much to remain a unifying principle, end quote. Thus, he began to devise a new system that he called the 12-tone technique. So in this system, the composer at the very beginning creates what's called a tone row. So this is an ordered set of all 12 tones of the chromatic scale. On the piano, this is all the black and white keys in an octave. He can arrange them in any way that he desires, maybe more closely resembling the scale or in a more dissonant way. He can make the succeeding notes more concentrated as they are in the beginning of the tone row, or he can design larger jumps within the row, as from the 5th and 6th note. The only rule is that each note in the row must be played before any note is repeated, to ensure that no note becomes more important than the other notes, as it is in tonality. However, this isn't a recurring theme or a motif in a composition, but simply a structure, analogous to what a key signature is for tonal music. So now that we understand what his music is, we can begin to evaluate whether or not it should be considered music. So in my research, I went back through history to kind of see how our idea of music has evolved. The first to answer this were the ancient Greeks, who believed that music was meant to echo divine harmony and reflect the movements of the heavenly bodies. Later in the 17th and 18th centuries, figures like Descartes and Leibniz viewed music as being primarily mathematical in nature, which continued into formalism in the 19th century, but then began to shift with Schopenhauer and Nietzsche, who saw music as a type of symbolism and gave little importance to the mathematical aspects of music. Then, in the early 20th century, the rise of the expressionist movement, the pendulum swung in the other direction, and it was held that the value of music came from its ability to arouse and express emotion. So even in this short overview, we can generally see some common elements. Two key components differentiate noise from music, and these are order and the ability to evoke emotion or response from the audience. So to answer my question, I argue, yes. Schoenberg's compositions should be considered music. First, because they have order. Second, because they're able to evoke a response from the audience. And third, because they make a unique use of musical components. So first is order. Though it's different from the order of tonal music, which relies on relationships among frequencies, Schoenberg's pieces were ordered insofar as the form of his composition matches his intention. So the piece I played at the beginning wasn't meant to be a happy or pleasing piece to the ear. Rather, the feelings of anxiety and discomfort were by design. Schoenberg was composing during the Expressionist movement in Europe, in which one critic describes how, quote, artists were driven by a desire to depict the anxiety, alienation, and existential angst that accompanied rapid societal changes, such as industrialization and urbanization, end quote. Europe seemed to be in a state of nihilism. World War I, the terror of the approaching Halley's Comet, and the depression that plagued his personal life all surrounded the creation of his 12-tone technique. Another historian explains that the culture at the time was one that, quote, comprises a vision of history as a nightmare, an obsession with mortality and decay, and a sense of human marginalization, end quote. This cultural despair is painfully evident in all of Schoenberg's work. Here's an example of a painting by Arnold Schoenberg. He also dabbled in visual arts, and this painting, entitled The Red Gaze, is meant to capture the zeitgeist of the time. And returning to his music, the intense dissonances, the chaotic jumps, and the ominous character of his music express this. Unlike a tonal piece, there's no feeling of contentment with the final resolution, but rather the angst and the anxiety resound through the final note. This was often the intention of his music, and the 12-tone technique allowed him to convey this in a way that he was unable to do with tonal music. The form of his technique matched his intention, and in this way, his compositions had order. Second, they clearly have been able to evoke a response from his audience. This point's difficult to prove, seeing that emotional experience is entirely subjective. However, it's evident from the popularity of his work that his music resonated not only with his audience, but with other artists as well. Film scores and even jazz can be traced back to his work with atonality. And finally, Schoenberg's technique allows for unique use of musical components. So this is the point that personally convinced me that his compositions should be considered music, because I saw where his work adds something of value to the field of music. Up until this point, I've described his music in terms of what it is not. It's true his music's not very harmonic, and it doesn't have the mathematical properties of tonal music. It's not even conventionally pleasing. But it's not merely the absence of tonality. In fact, Schoenberg himself didn't even like the term atonal. Quote, I find above all that the expression atonal music is most unfortunate. It is on par with calling flying the art of not falling, or swimming the art of not drowning. Rather, his music highlights to a higher degree the other elements of music that make a good piece. These are melody, harmony, rhythm, dynamics, register, and timbre. So, timbre, the color or flavor of instruments in the piece, are the main focus of Schoenberg's technique, whereas for tonal music, the focus is primarily on harmonies and melodies. Theodor Adorno, a famous German philosopher and musicologist, says that, quote, "The 12-tone technique allows for an undreamt-of use of timbre that is impossible with tonal music," end quote. To demonstrate this, I will play part of one of his serenades. We can see how he utilizes the brighter strings, the lighter woodwinds, and the deeper percussions. Through this, we see that atonality wasn't an obstinate revolt against tradition. It wasn't meant to replace tonality, but rather it was meant to intensify different dimensions of music. Schoenberg himself says, quote, "There is still much good music to be made in C major," end quote. One could argue, however, that atonality lacks mathematical order or proportion, which underlies beauty. We saw particularly in the Renaissance with architecture that harmony, symmetry, and proportion underlie beauty. Atonal music, which lacks harmony and mathematical order and proportionality among frequencies, can therefore not be beautiful, which is a requisite for art. In response to this objection, I would say that, yes, it's true. Schoenberg's music doesn't exhibit the proportions of tonal music. And while proportionality is certainly a requirement for aestheticism, where a work of art provides sensory pleasure, is not synonymous with beauty. Take, for example, the other forms of art, such as Soutine's Carcass or Munch's Scream, present painful themes, but are still beautiful to the extent that they express higher truths. In film or theater, oftentimes, the most beautiful works are the ones that are painful to get through, such as Hamlet. And in literature, there are countless examples of novels that explore the darkness of the human experience, such as Frankenstein. And while we strive to one day live where the truth is pleasant in heaven, we live in a world full of sin, disease, horror, and death. And depicting these truths in effective and creative ways is, in a sense, beautiful. Schoenberg uses the 12-tone technique, atonality, and other components of sound to do this. Others argue that Schoenberg's technique cannot be true art because of its expressive limitations. The 12-tone technique, with its use of dissonance, is made to convey anger, anxiety, and chaos. Without any real harmony or resolution, the 12-tone technique is unable to express the other spectrum of emotions, such as happiness or humor. Joyful feelings are equally as intrinsic to our experience as humans, and any art form that's unable to convey these is not music. And while it's true that the 12-tone technique is more fitting, maybe for negative expression, there's still room to create more joyful sounds. The 12-tone technique is simply a structure within which an artist works. It doesn't dictate the sound or the energy of the piece. Artists can use upbeat rhythms, higher-pitched instruments, and harmonic combinations to express more playful feelings, utilizing other components of art aside from simply a resolution. So, in conclusion, Schoenberg's work does merit the term music. And while I doubt that I'll be adding any of his pieces to my classical repertoire anytime soon, I nonetheless believe that his music can have some place in our lives. And if we choose to give it a chance, we may find something in it that speaks to our own situation. Thank you, and I now stand for questions.
Excellent presentation, Vivian. I was wondering, how would you distinguish music from noise?
Yeah, so I think order is definitely very important in that. Noise is random. And not only is Schoenberg's music ordered insofar as, like, he's not just randomly putting keys down, like he's actually choosing where to put them. But a lot of creativity and artistic judgment goes into it. And also, while it might kind of seem chaotic, he's using dissonance and atonality and, of course, rhythm, tempo, all these other aspects of music to convey chaos. And so while that can sound similar to kind of like randomness, it still is ordered. Thank you.
Hi Vivian, great presentation. So I'm a bit of an amateur musician, and I'm going to be honest, listening to the first piece that you played, it made me very angry. So, less of a, in your research, what have other musicians said of Schoenberg's work?
Definitely a mix. I think it's pretty widely agreed that it is music, but I think artists do appreciate it, and particularly, I mean, that I did kind of choose a very extreme example, but we do see a lot of his work in particularly cinema, and I think musicians and artists can appreciate it in that sense. But seeing as the main goal of it really wasn't to appeal to the popular ear, I think most people don't really enjoy it.
A great presentation, Vivian. So, I really appreciate that you're answering the question of if what is music instead of what music sounds good. Because as you said, this Schoenberg piece may not really sound good, as it wouldn't meet the criteria from my presentation, for example. But at the beginning of my presentation, as you may remember, I played an example of like electro-clash music that has clashing noises and heavy dissonance, which does seem similar in, not in sound, but in the theory as Schoenberg's music, in that it's using dissonance to maybe make a point. So do you think that music like that has artistic merit, even if it may not sound good, because it makes some point of, I don't know, for example, showing pain and using the disharmony to maybe to emphasize the actual harmony in it?
Yes, I do think that I very much agree with that. I think that probably is an example of atonal music, not 12-tone technique, but I do think that it is a very potent way to express those beautiful themes, and I agree with you.
I don't have an objection, because you argued that really well. But I did pick up guitar about a month ago, and my mom loves classical music, and made a comparison of my playing to that. So besides being able to use this music for, comparison of what doesn't sound good, how do you think Schoenberg's music, like, what contributions has it made to the genre as a whole, and are those good contributions?
Thank you for your question. I think that it's evident the 12-tone technique wasn't very long-lasting. It kind of was very short-lived. And I think it has had some meaningful contributions in the fact that I think it's a noble pursuit to kind of try to maybe rethink the way can we organize music in a different way without just centering it around the tonic. So I think kind of the exploration of that idea, and then kind of finding value through timbre and the other use of musical elements was beneficial to the musical genre, but I think it definitely plays a different role than classical music does, in that it's not as easily, I wouldn't say it's impossible, it's not as easily appreciated by the public though. Thank you.
Great presentation, Vivian. It was very well done. So, based off of your definition for music, and like the order and all that, could you say that, for example, rainforest white noise is music because it shows God's order? Like if you just like put a microphone in a rainforest, recorded it, would that classify as music?
That's a good question. I would say that it's God's music, but I wouldn't say, because it wasn't created by humans and there's not any actual creativity or intention from the person recording the rainforest, I would probably say it's not music.
What if someone simulated rain? Would that be music then?
Sorry, if someone simulated a rave?
Rain.
Yeah, actually,
Rain.
we went to a concert where the modern artist was simulating the sounds of Florida. And I think that particularly with the use of timbre and using different instruments to mimic rain, I think that that would definitely be music. Thank you.
Great job, Vivian. You're the classic.
All right, thank you again to our senior presenters. Thank you all for coming out here and supporting them. This concludes our 2025 senior thesis presentations. Let's close with prayer. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, the world without end, amen. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. God bless. Have a good night.
This is